They built a wall around infinity. They separated all the infinite universes from all the infinite universes where he's the smartest man in the universe. Now you're evil Morty too. Sooner or later we all are. On this side of the curve.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Charlie. This will be my full Rick and Morty Season 5 Episode 10 finale video, giving you all the evil Morty you ever asked for and all the answers about Rick's backstory that you wanted. There are so many Easter eggs and references. They also set up a bunch of big things that they'll have to pay off in future seasons as well, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will be doing Rick and Morty Season 6 videos pretty soon, too. Careful for spoilers for everything during Season 5 if you haven't seen the episodes yet. I'll number all these as we go along just to stay organized, but starting at the beginning with the title of the episode, Rickmurai Jack, which is a reference to Samurai Jack, which was an Adult Swim show, so they're kind of bringing the Easter eggs full circle. It's an amazing show if you've not watched it yet. This is also meant to play up the whole parody of the Rick and Two Crows anime-style episode spin-off franchise, with a whole anime-themed opening scene. So a lot of the intro scene, the characters, the way they play things, the way they animate things is a pastiche of shows like Samurai Jack, also Vampire Hunter D with the way his costume looks and the cybernetic horse. There was a little bit of Ninja Scroll mixed in there, I think, and then a bit of Yu Yu Hakusho. So a lot of you probably spotted some more specific anime references and tropes during this opening scene. But during the opening scene, they play this whole part of the episode as if we are watching Rick's spin-off show, Rick and Two Crows, and it's an anime show, so that's why everything is animated differently than the rest of the regular Rick and Morty episodes. The title Chapter 13, A Wing and a Prayer, is just a reference to this being the season finale of Rick's spin-off show, because a lot of seasonal anime shows now only have 12 to 13 episodes. So it's the Rick and Morty Season 5 Episode 10 finale, but it's also the finale of Rick and Two Crows because the show ends right after this when Rick's crows go back to their last relationship and Rick goes back to the family. So technically we're kind of watching the series finale of Rick and Two Crows, but maybe they'll make a joke about it or reference it during Season 6. Like I said, his costume and the cybernetic horse is very Vampire Hunter D, but the whole joke with the birds wondering if he's going to surrender is a very Samurai Jack kind of joke. His cybernetic wings also seem like they're meant to be a callback to Phoenix Person's wings. I also love the way they interrupt Morty's confession with the full-on anime intro OP. And even though this isn't specifically Samurai Jack inspired, it does seem familiar. So if you think you know specifically which anime series this opening is meant to reference, just write it below in the comments. But the whole thing with the burned-in subtitles and the letters being all weird, different colors and fonts is just a reference to old-school fan subs. If you ever watched any kind of anime online in the early 2000s, chances are it was probably a pirated fan sub on one of those early websites like Crunchyroll, for instance, which actually started out as a pirate anime website but then tried to go legit. I'm not sure which anime character Crow Scare is meant to reference, but it's also just another crow-themed joke, like it's a scarecrow monster, Rick is the crow hero now, everything in this part of the episode is crow-themed. I think the Pucifer Tiger is meant to be a reference to Yu Yu Hakusho, and the whole thing with 40-year-old adult Morty was hilarious. They're so weird and specific with these old person jokes because a lot of the Rick and Morty writing staff is getting closer to this age, like a lot of them are around the age of 40 or a little bit older. But man, Morty is like the oldest looking 40-year-old person that I've ever seen. And it is genuinely meant to be old Morty, like he took an aging serum, so it implies that unless he turns into a fitness or a health nut, this is exactly what Morty's gonna look like when he turns 40. He did lie about Jerry dying from a heart attack and Summer marrying a junkie, but you could think of it as being weirdly prophetic, like he's foretelling what will actually happen to them in some dark version of the future in some universe. When the bartender calls him a poser, even though he's just taking a shot at him, making fun of him, he's actually correct because Morty is only pretending to be old. Morty's whole conversation, getting impatient with Rick asking, "When are you finally going to kill the crows, big bad?" is meant to be a metaphor for the entire show and the evil Morty of it all, because fans have been hounding Dan and Justin to pay off the evil Morty storyline forever. Which they kind of did during this episode, but not completely. The funny thing is that they raise a whole bunch of new questions while answering a lot of those old questions about evil Morty and what his whole plan was. Like, wait a minute, what's going on here with the yellow portal fluid? Don't worry, I'll talk about this too, and the space between dimensions that he travels into before he finds another universe. They reveal that Rick's crows were just using him as a rebound for their previous relationship, which was supposed to be the big bad crow scare, and now they're just getting back together to go on their own adventures together, and it brings Rick back to the family, sort of resetting the formula of the show back to normal, mostly. We all knew the Rick and Two Crows spinoff was just meant to be a bit, so it wasn't going to last for forever. Also, part of the reason why I think they aired the last 2 episodes together is because of the twist. Like, they didn't want people to freak out and think that they were actually doing a spin-off show called Rick and Two Crows. Like, no, it's still Rick and Morty. We're not doing that Rick and Two Crows thing. Rick then calls out the whole metaphor of how their adventures together were just a metaphor for romantic relationships, but then I love how gross they get with the way they take this back too, like, speak for yourself. Like the Crows were in a 3-way with Crow Scare, let us show him as proof, and Rick's like, oh hell no, and just runs away. When he comes back to the house, he says his trademark phrase, wubba-lubba-dub-dub, when Morty opens the door. But remember, that means I am in great pain, which is true in this episode, but it seems like Rick is always in great pain of some kind, either emotional or physical, just depending on the episode. They make a bunch more jokes about Morty being middle-aged and how he's super codependent now. Don't worry, once he gets younger and he has more of his life ahead of him, he'll stop doing this. The only real Summer moment during this episode is her trying to get Morty to buy her friends Molly, and I think that's also meant to pay off the joke about Summer wanting to do Molly before she dies. But then the real episode starts with Rick calling it out, like, hitting the ground running with another Citadel episode, like the Ricklantis mix-up. When they enter the Citadel, you see the blackboard in the background here with the drawing in chalk. It actually kind of looks like an upside-down anatomical drawing of a vagina with the fallopian tubes. Rick and Morty animates all kinds of random ball sacks and stealth dicks into the backgrounds of episodes if you look hard enough. So if you're watching an episode and you feel like there's some phallic shape in the background, you are probably correct. Morty then has to explain to Rick how Evil Morty was elected president, even though he doesn't call him Evil Morty, he just calls him President Morty. Rick starts making fun of it, sort of setting off their whole arc. Morty makes even more old person jokes, being kind of cynical, saying, they turned this place into Glendale. He's actually talking about Glendale, California, which has kind of become Disneyfied. So it's a very specific joke about the Los Angeles area. Then he jokes that he's so old that it now hurts for him to poop. The Rebuild a Morty store is just a reference to the Build-A-Bear stores, where basically they break all of his bones and rip him apart like he's a stuffed bear and stitch him back together. But when they rip him apart into smaller halves, the smaller halves are like de-aged to the age he was when he was that size. Then when they're left with the extra 26-year-old version of him, they just use it for more millennial jokes, with him being super lame, then winds up dying during a police protest, like, hey, this isn't right, I need to stop this. Then as he lay dying, gets super happy because Morty tells him, oh yes, you were influential, you had like 7 or 8 blogs. The mutant Morty then gives away the whole secret of the Citadel, setting up the Evil Morty reveal. Then the Rick secret police show up to escort him to Evil Morty, with Rick calling it out. The minute we get a whiff of him being evil, I'm out of there. The joke being that his name is literally Evil Morty. When the mutant Morty talks about the Citadel being a weapon of mass destruction, what he's talking about is that it was part of Evil Morty's plan to destroy the central finite curve. Rick breaks the fourth wall when he says the Citadel runs on canon and the whole point was to get back to simple adventures. He's referencing the structure of the show. Canonical episodes where they move the overall plot forward, like the whole Evil Morty storyline over a couple seasons, versus the one-off adventures that you don't really need to watch in any particular order. Rick also makes a reference to this again during their dinner with Evil Morty when he says one thing that he hates is serialized episodes. Dan and Justin have talked about this in the past, the reason why they like to do more one-offs. It's very inside baseball TV stuff. The reason why they want to do more one-off episodes is because those types of shows tend to sell better in syndication, and when they sell more in syndication, the network, Dan and Justin, earn more money, so it's generally just better business to make shows that are more one-off episodes. Even though nowadays you see most live-action shows go to more of a serialized model. When Morty says things are going right back to how they were, it's another metaphor for the show going back to normal during Season 6, like during Rick and Morty Season 6, it'll be more of the one-off episodes. Because Evil Morty, who was a big part of their serialized part of the story, the big canonical part of the story, is now in a different part of the multiverse outside the central finite curve. And it turns out he never really cared about killing Rick specifically, he just wanted to get away and needed to take over the Citadel to do that. They really play up the whole Bond villain tropes with their dinner, with them trying to one-up each other. Rick and Morty figuring things out pretty quickly, Evil Morty not trying to hide who he really is, or their shared history since Season 1 with Evil Rick. You notice the pin that Evil Morty is wearing is shaped like the Citadel. Rick breaks the fourth wall again when he says, "There's the reveal," after Evil Morty says, "Eventually I was going to have to hunt you down." And Evil Morty talks about Rick liking to keep things episodic. Rick never looks back. Again, that's more of a money thing in real life about the way they structure the show, doing more one-off episodes instead of serialized episodes. Then they drop the bombshell that C-137 Rick is the person who originally created the Citadel itself, and as Morty learns all this while he's watching his memories play out, he learns the reason why he created the Citadel was to get the other Ricks off of his back, like he got tired of dealing with them, so he gave them the idea for the Citadel in the design. and to try and create a place where he could find Mortys and have a fulfilling life with his family, even if it wasn't the original version of his family, because remember, they died. So he designed and helped make the original Citadel. But they do explain before this that the Ricks had a loose organization already. They had banded together, but C-137 Rick brought them together in a much bigger way. So he was like the original president of the Citadel, but couldn't stand them and wanted nothing to do with it. So he just bailed after they finished building it. Evil Morty makes more Season 1 references when he says they've been scanning his brain since that Evil Rick episode, and that he had manipulated Evil Rick, who he was controlling this whole time, into creating that device to scan Rick, so that Evil Morty could get the plans for the Citadel itself. And he starts explaining the central finite curve to our version of Morty. So the central finite curve is a way of describing the smaller subset of universes inside the larger multiverse, where in each universe, Rick is the smartest person. So the actual physical structure of the Citadel itself, the technology, is meant to help separate the central finite curve from the rest of the multiverse. So not only is it meant to be an actual place for them to live together, it actually serves a much more important function. But for example, like we see in the end of the episode when Evil Morty breaks free into the rest of the multiverse, there are other universes outside the central finite curve where Rick is not the smartest person. Like there could be other universes out there, other curves where Beth is the smartest person, like a council of Beths on their own in a Beth-centric central finite curve. Or there could be another one where Mortys are supreme, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. We might see some of those other universes, other parts of the multiverse in future seasons. All the scenes that they show here when they're depicting Rick's earlier memories are him creating a very early prototype of his portal gun, him building his spaceship, then him messing with Jerry, then Snuffles or Snowball, depending on what you want to call him, from Season 1, Episode 3, Lawnmower Dog. Then the last one is just the plans for the Citadel itself. The whole thing with the bit of the pop-up Stan Lee version of Rick is meant to be a reference to the old-school Marvel comics where there would be little blurbs explaining references. Like in an old Marvel comic book, there would be some big plot point with two characters referencing some past event, and there would be a little blurb with Stan Lee saying, "Read this previous issue to find out what they're talking about." Also, this Rick is literally designed to look exactly like Stan Lee. Before he scanned Rick's brain the rest of the way, the reason why he says he would have had to kill every Rick on the Citadel to get the plans are because only a few Ricks were around when the Citadel was originally built, so only a couple of them would have that information. But the next big bombshell they drop, and I would argue that it's an even bigger bombshell, is how C-137 Rick and all the other Ricks manipulate the multiverse, alternate universes, alternate timelines, to create more Mortys so that they can have more sidekicks. It's pretty sinister, and Rick does cop to it, like, yes, but it's complicated. So Evil Morty flashes back to Season 1, Episode 9, where he first appeared, and they reveal how the Ricks learned that they could use Mortys to mask their brainwaves, but says that gave them the idea to create the Morty market at the Citadel and create all these copies of Mortys. So in different universes, alternate timelines, they manipulate events so that every version of Beth will always wind up getting married to a version of Jerry so that new Mortys will be born, and also at the same time, they're cloning Mortys to boost their numbers even more. This thing with the helmets on the conveyor belt is them just training all the clones, grafting all of Morty's memories onto them so that they think that they're regular Mortys, like our main version of Morty. Like none of these Mortys will know that they're clones. Then they show one being delivered to a Rick who just recently requested a replacement Morty. You may also remember this pays off the joke from way back in Season 1 where the Citadel tried to offer Rick a coupon for one free replacement Morty, and he's like, no, not now. The replacement would have been created just like this, cloned and then given all of Morty's memories, so it would have been a perfect backup copy, as if no beats had been lost. They show you the factory floor where they store the new ones and where they dump the old ones to be used as recycled biomatter in the creation of more new clone Mortys. Then Rick makes another Inspector Gadget reference, he's made several of those this season, and they reveal Evil Morty hacked everyone's portal guns so that it would kill all the Ricks as soon as they tried using them to escape, and some of the Mortys that had portal guns. The whole thing with this monster weapon that Rick creates is basically meant to be a hedonistic power loop connected to him. It absorbs his pain, but very masochistically feels pain as pleasure, so that's why it seems like it's getting off while Rick is getting attacked. But the creature then stores up this energy that it creates, passing it back to Rick in this pain-pleasure hedonistic loop, powering him up, turning him into Super Rick for a little while, and it's a very on-brand kind of weapon for Rick, powering himself up using hedonistic tendencies. But he jokes that it's just meant to be a metaphor for capitalism. Evil Morty also kind of breaks the fourth wall when he says the quality of dialogue stops mattering after Rick yells at him, saying, "I was shooting you because I hated the quality of your dialogue." Evil Morty making the joke that the quality of the dialogue doesn't matter anymore because it's the finale and they're paying off all these Evil Morty storylines. That's why he says, doing the thing that I want to do with the curve thing, just using terrible dialogue because, as he said, it doesn't matter because they're finally paying this storyline off. Mostly. When everyone's getting shredded in all these different portals or killed when they try to portal away, some of these are callbacks to the Blender dimension, also from Season 3, Episode 7. Some of these are different though, like I really like the one with a giant hand skewering Rick with an olive in a pick like he's making a giant martini. The whole joke with the news channel anchor saying that he was lying the whole time because he was being paid by pharmaceutical companies is the show just taking shots at most large cable news channels being puppets of advertisers who pay them tons of money. Then they reveal the full scope of Evil Morty's plan, so he never wanted to kill Rick at any point, he only wanted to escape the Central Finite Curve to get to a place where Ricks were not supreme, because every universe in the Central Finite Curve was chosen because they were universes where Rick was the smartest person. So when he says he needed the schematics for the Citadel dimensional drive, it's the drive that powers their ability to maintain the Central Finite Curve. Morty uses the device to see Rick's entire history, so a lot of WTF moments here, but a lot of this backstory I've already explained, like we got a lot of these scenes earlier this season. But they reveal previously that the events of Season 3, Episode 1 were true the whole time. Rick just lied about them being a fake memory. This other Rick from the group of Ricks that predated the Citadel really did kill his wife and his daughter Beth in order to get him to join them. He languished for a while in depression, then created a portal gun and went around the multiverse trying to find him and kill him, but not succeeding. So go back to Season 3, Episode 1. There's that joke about the Szechuan sauce being his one-armed man. Really, his one-armed man, if you think about it, is that Rick who killed his wife and daughter. So maybe they'll pay that off in a future episode. It seems like a huge deal. Like that's almost as big of a teaser as the whole Evil Morty alternate multiverse out here storyline. You notice that the first version of his spaceship here he created was super advanced looking as opposed to the one he uses now that's made out of household items, but the thing is that his original spaceship was only designed for one person. It wasn't until he started living with the family again and having sidekicks that he made the larger one for multiple people. You see that he was trying to actually have a little bit of fun and enjoy himself while also searching for his wife's killer. Like he looks at the pizza box before he sets out on his plan to create the portal gun and the spaceship, and then gets the idea to travel to the pizza-themed universe where everything is pizza, which is another callback to the pizza planet that they travel to when they're running through different dimensions earlier on the show. So it's revealing that he's actually been to this planet before. This train traveling through the portals in space seems like a version of the story train, even though it's a little bit different. You see them fill in the rest of his timeline before he met Bird Person, how he traded for items that he needed, then slowly grew colder, and eventually, as time goes by, starts to look more like the Rick who we saw during the Bird Person origin story with the longer hair. You do see a couple of his adventures with Bird Person as their timeline catches up with the events of the Battle of Blood Ridge where they break up, and then he continues going back to searching for that other Rick that killed his wife and child. That's where he starts to learn about the loose organization of Ricks that predates the Citadel of Ricks. He goes around killing different ones, searching for the man that killed his wife. This whole big sci-fi maze seems like a Tron reference. Then after failing to find him, just gets drunk back at his house and starts picking off all the Ricks that the organization sends after him, proceeding to kill 99% of their group's population in one fell swoop. After which the few survivors kind of bowed to him as a god, and he creates the Citadel of Ricks to get them off his back, taking off as they finish it. Also engineering the Citadel to create the Central Finite Curve where he can find versions of his family and live out a happy life. Where he then goes back to find a Beth whose Rick had abandoned her, settling in with her, pretending to be her Rick, as we learned earlier this season. And the whole point here where Morty comes out of the trance and says, oh, a dead wife, is them basically joking that the whole reason why Rick is the way he is, why he did all these crazy things, is because of his dead wife. Like you could literally explain it in 2 words, so why was it necessary that we have this whole flashback montage? Which is one of the reasons why Dan and Justin say that they have been resisting explaining this stuff for so long, because ultimately it's not the most interesting thing about the show. Like, some things are more interesting when you don't totally understand them. Which is why Rick then says out loud, now everyone can shut up about it.
Dead wife? Yes, now everyone can shut up about it.
Because it's Dan and Justin saying, please stop asking us about this. Then Evil Morty tries to frame things like Ricks are the villains here, trying to justify their actions and not take responsibility for all the terrible things that they do, especially all of them mistreating their Mortys. So the whole idea here is that Evil Morty came from a universe where he learned the truth of his existence, this like grand WTF moment about the way they clone all these Mortys, and the existence of the Central Finite Curve, and then hatched his plan to escape. And everything he's done up to this point has been to fulfill that plan. So the whole idea with him taking over the Citadel was that it was just an excuse to get the technology he needed so that he could escape this part of the multiverse. I also love how he tells our Morty, oh, you've been evil Morty too. Anytime that you've hated your Rick, you become an evil Morty. See, there you go, you're evil Morty now. It's like the show is saying the evil Morty is more of a concept than an actual big bad villain. And if it wasn't clear, the whole Operation Phoenix reference here is them paying off the joke from Season 2, Episode 7 with Little Rick. He reveals that he had this program to jump into different clone bodies to be used as backups if he ever died. They also kind of did a version of this during Season 4, with him hopping into different universe bodies. Evil Mortys hack the system though, so they all get rerouted to this device, but the thing is that they blend their DNA and use the DNA of these bodies to power up the giant portal laser and open a tear to the rest of the larger multiverse. Rick then shows that he's not a total monster by saving all the mutant Mortys, and when the saucer section of the Citadel breaks off as a giant escape pod, this is just a big Star Trek The Next Generation reference, when they used to detach the saucer section of the Enterprise. When Evil Morty travels through what looks like the black hole here, this is a reference to both 2001 Space Odyssey and Interstellar because he uses the black hole to travel through time, so to speak. Even though Evil Morty isn't traveling through time, he's just traveling to another part of the multiverse. There are all these other universes that he's traveling past, these globes. They're not meant to be planets, they're other universes, so he's in this extra-dimensional space between universes. And it's implied the yellow portal gun is a special portal gun that allows someone to travel between universes outside the central finite curve, whereas the regular green portal fluid will only take you to different universes inside the central finite curve. And the other real WTF thing here they kind of imply through this is that they're grinding up bits of Ricks and Mortys, so like their DNA combined is what helps make the yellow portal fluid. If it feels like they're getting into some Loki Marvel territory with all this multiverse, alternate universes stuff, the connection here is that the person who wrote the episode, Jeff Loveness, is actually writing Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. The main villain of that is going to be the true Kang the Conqueror of the MCU, so they're going to get into the Kang multiverse war. So now don't you wonder, if they're teasing this larger multiverse outside the central finite curve, if we'll see a version of that play out in the Rick and Morty multiverse at some point. One of the big tropes of the Kang multiverse war is other versions of Kang going around destroying entire universes. And one of Evil Morty's major goals here was to destroy the central finite curve, or the sanctity of the central finite curve. That's what's happening when you see the Citadel blow up and you see all these different yellow globes that represent the different universes of the central finite curve start looking like they're blowing up. So effectively what Evil Morty has done has opened up all these versions of Rick and Morty to the larger multiverse, just opening up to the possibility that there are a lot of universes that we'll cross over with in the future where Rick is not supreme, meaning that there are potentially a lot of new threats. But they pay off the earlier reference about them taking things back to normal when Rick gets Morty's help to complete their escape, like, hey, we're a pair again, help me out, help me save the day here. And they watch as the Citadel of Ricks is completely destroyed, so RIP Citadel. This time, it seems like for good. Like, this is Dan and Justin saying, we're not going to be doing any Citadel of Ricks stories on the show anymore. But then they do another classic Mr. Poopy Butthole post-credit scene in the same style as Season 2 and Season 3's ending, continuing the theme of him just suffering the consequences of their previous adventures. He explains he lost his job at the university where he was teaching because of the heist episode during Season 4 with Rick. It eventually destroyed his marriage, so now he's living like Jerry was when he had his apartment living away from the family. And his whole speech about being honest with the ones you love is meant to be the whole theme of the actual finale episode, about not telling lies to the people you love, even if you think you're trying to protect them from yourself. So they try to get super deep here, which is trademark Rick and Morty. But as far as we know right now, Rick and Morty Season 6 will premiere sometime next summer, around the same time that Season 5 premiered. If you did spot any more Easter eggs during the finale episode that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments. My full Marvel What If Episode 5 video will post Wednesday just like normal, and I just did a separate Rick and Morty Season 5 Episode 9 video. You can click here to watch that, and click here for my full Shang-Chi post-credit scene ending video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.